let's get on to what we were going to talk about. The World Health Organization, the pandemic plan, and whether or not it is some massive conspiracy to take away New Zealand's sovereignty. First up, Des, are you aware of this issue? Can you explain it in layperson's terms to us what the WHO is doing here?
Yeah, I can. I heard Michael Laws discussing this the other day with Michael Baker, and I thought while I agreed with what Michael Baker was saying, what interested me was the bits and pieces he avoided talking about rather than the bits he did talk about. The WHO is simply updating its recommendations around pandemic management, and I believe that Ashley Bloomfield's involved in that update. But I can reassure your listeners that the WHO at a macro political level is a toothless tiger. It has no ability, sadly, it has no ability to affect almost anything. I'm not saying that WHO agencies don't do good work, because they do. And I've done I worked on a number of occasions with the WHO where I've been very impressed by them. But at a macro political level, they're a toothless tiger. And the idea that they could impose on our sovereignty, sadly, is a joke, because, in fact, they have no such authority and no such ability. And you saw that at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, Sean, when, our initial response was such that we had an avoidable lockdown right at the beginning. And that came about because we didn't have a plan. It also came about because of the diffidence of the WHO and the fact that it couldn't get its act together, and it was fluffing around about whether there needed to be border control. And you've seen
because the picture that's painted, Des, this is really interesting. The picture that's painted is that somehow Cindy is in cahoots with the World Health Organization, and we had the lockdowns and we had our rather severe social restrictions because of the World Health Organization. That's the kind of cooker's code of belief.
Yeah, look, I think our government, as you know from our previous conversations, I wasn't impressed by how they governed and managed the pandemic, and certainly the lockdowns occurred because we couldn't get our public health measures right. But I think the idea that our former Prime Minister's in some conspiracy with the WHO and that Ashley's over there drawing up draconian measures which will rob us of our ability to govern ourselves. I mean, people should relax. The WHO doesn't have any teeth. It really is a toothless tiger. You've seen that, their inability to hold China to account for the outbreak of COVID at the get-go. I mean, they posture and they make strong pronouncements, but at a macro political level, they're a wet bus ticket.
All right. You say failure to discipline China for the outbreak. Just talk me through that.
Yeah, I didn't say discipline, I said hold them to account.
Yeah.
I mean, we still don't fully know whether it was a laboratory accident or whether it jumped from the wild. The evidence would suggest it jumped to humans from the wild, but China should have been made to account for the outbreak. There should have been a very explicit production of data around how it arose so that we can learn how to avoid it in future. Instead, there was obfuscation. There was people suddenly weren't around to give opinions. People disappeared. I mean, it was a terrible period of avoiding accountability. And the WHO, while it sent a team over there, I think they visited the Great Wall of China and the People's Hall, took some selfies and went home.
Avis, you're into this?
I am really interested to hear what's being said today. The concern I have, and no, I haven't signed...
Avis, it's for questions for Des. Do you have a question for Des?
Okay, well, the question I have is, if a sovereign nation has the right to say no, how come New Zealand didn't last time with COVID-19? Because New Zealand took on the advice that was given by WHO and actioned pretty much 99.9% of it, and then went another step further with Ashley Bloomfield.
No, Avis, we didn't. Actually, we were shutting down and closing borders at a time when the WHO wasn't recommending either. The WHO was very slow off the mark. They were quite diffident about border control. They were arguing until quite late that there was no need to constrain international movement. So our government acted independently of the WHO. The tragedy of that first lockdown, Avis, is that it was completely avoidable, or arguably avoidable, because if they'd actually operated faster to close the borders, then in fact we would have avoided the first lockdown. But no, we didn't passively follow WHO.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, because that's been very muddy waters.
Carl, you are next up. Carl, what's your question for Des?
Yeah, hi, Sean. I guess my question is, why would they make it so it's been established that it is going to be non-binding, the agreement?
Des?
Yeah, I'm sorry. What
the question was, why have an agreement if it's non-binding? Why do they bother with this stuff?
Oh, well, that's the whole point about the WHO, Carl. It is, as I said before, at an agency level within countries, it does a lot of good. But at a global political level, it's all about appearances, Carl. It's a political construct.